Flashback 12.1 A Little Help from My Friends. It was evening. I was finished for the day and awaiting the orderly to take me to dinner. My door buzzed, informing me that someone was about to open the door and presumably enter the room. Of course, that someone that usually buzzed my door was one of the 6 orderlies assigned to me. The weekday orderly for each shift, graveyard, daytime, and evening. And of course, a weekend orderly for each shift, graveyard, daytime, and evening. Sometimes there would be an unfamiliar orderly, which I assumed was because someone must be sick or had a conflicting plan outside in the real world, away from their job. Yep, the arrival of the morning orderly or an evening orderly was always expected. I suppose they wanted it that way. They liked everything to be static, predictable, uninteresting, boring, and mind-numbing. The door opened. As predicted, entered a familiar weekend evening orderly. The orderly had a fresh-looking purple bruise on one side of his forehead, and the cheek and ear on the side were red and swollen. He looked like he was wincing in pain from a recent fight. I was shocked. I did not know what to do or say. Another unexpected thing happened right then. Another person entered the room, right behind the orderly. It was Sarah McGilvray. Knights Templar Sarah McGilvray. She stood there holding an expanded, collapsible police baton. It hit me. Well, I think Sarah hit the orderly. I imagine that she must have cudgeled him with that police baton across his face, leaving the bruises and red swelling on him. She asked politely, "Are you ready to go, Rick Liberty?" She declared, "God's mission quest awaits us." I replied, "Of course I am, but I have this anklet. We need to get it off, and I want my notes from my computer that they had loaned me. Then we can get out of here." Sarah smiled. "Okay, we'll find your laptop, and we'll get that thing off your leg." Sarah frowned at the bruised orderly and said, "I am truly sorry for having to strike you. You really should have listened to me. I warned you." She asked, "Where will we find Rick's laptop? And where is the key or device to his tracking anklet?" The orderly was afraid of Sarah, having been badly beaten and wounded by her already, and so he answered, "The laptop is just in the hall, in a closet, and the anklet, you need a hospital officer to unlock and deactivate that thing. It needs a computer." And then he added, "Look, I can get the laptop for you." But Sarah stopped him, raising her index finger to her lips, saying, "Shh." And then she said quietly up close, "Thank you. Now, I need you to take one of your little knockout syringes and inject yourself with it. If you do not, I will knock you unconscious, or worse, with this baton. Understand? Demonstrate your understanding by injecting yourself now," she emphasized. He had already been smacked by Sarah severely. He did not want any more injuries or pain. And if he was knocked so hard before and now could be knocked unconscious, he knew he could suffer a concussion, even die. He knew what severe head trauma could do to someone. And so, he laid himself down on the bed, on my bed, and he took out a syringe and he injected himself in his own leg. He quickly fell back and drifted off to sleep. We exited the room into the hallway, and at the end of that hallway were rows of white cabinets hung on its far wall. Sarah marched straight up to them and opened them sequentially, one after another. They were filled with towels and bed linens, uniforms, stationery supplies, and then laptops and tablets. I recognized the tablet with its printed room number on it, number 6. Like the TV show The Prisoner. I wondered, if I was number 6, then who was number 1? Perhaps I was number 1 and number 6. Sarah looked at the anklet and sighed. I think we should just cut it off. I'm fine in finding some security officer and forcing them to remove it, but I am unsure it would be the best course of action. We have tools in the van, I am sure. We could just cut it off in 2 seconds. What is your decision, Rick Liberty? I answered, let's blow this popsicle stand. We'll cut the tracking band off later. We were headed off through the front hospital door, but 2 orderlies appeared. They were wielding their syringes. Sarah smiled widely. Gentlemen, you have a choice to make. You can leave right now, or you can be left unconscious in under 1 minute. This is checkmate, gentlemen. You have a choice to make. She lowered herself into a launched position stance and held the police baton at her side. I think it was her final glare at them that terrorized them the most. Her eyes were piercing and threatening. She was on a mission and they were in the way. They recognized Sarah was deadly serious. One of them declared the cliche, "This job is not worth this," and the other yelled, "Right!" and they just turned and fled. We exited through that front door to find Tiny's van parked right up there on the staircase, where it should clearly not be. It was far away from the street. We entered Tiny's blazing taxis, Knights Templar, opaque government-style black van, and we were off, thumping down the staircase, then onto the street, and out we were. I looked around the van. The team was all there. Deputy Taylor, aka Taylor Everest, God's soldier and our protector. Katie Snowette, aka Katie Divine, empath and the moral compass. Bob Sanchez, aka Bob Cervantes, the pragmatist and the grumpy. Sarah McGilvray, coordinator of Midnight and Associates, but a scout infiltration Knights Templar expert. Tiny, the driver and the pilot. Transport of Midnight and Associates. And of course, Transport and Brute Knight for the Knights Templar. Myself, Richard Seaborn, aka Rick Liberty. Me, the Fulcrum. And the sword and lead head of the Knights Templar. And if they were here, I knew our other allies were out awaiting us in the real world. Mr. Lesky, head of Midnight and Associates and the former leader of the Knights Templar. Amanda Seaborn. My daughter, hacker and researcher. Catherine Seaborn, my wife, financial and supply chain analyst. Sarah leaned down to my anklet and placed a narrow, scissors-like thing to it. I would say they were like scissors, but they were super thin and crazy strong, and had a lever to pump to add some kind of pressure until it would cut through or break anything that it was biting. Anyway, it just slid in, and after a dozen pumps of its lever, the anklet split and just fell right off. Sarah lifted it up, slid the van door open a bit, and threw the tracking anklet out of the van. Clang, it was gone. Tiny drove us out of Scottsdale out into the Arizona desert. And there, in the desert plains, was the Knights Templar KT cargo RV plane. We drove up its ramp into its custom van cargo bay. I declared, "It's time to stop the cult of Baal and destroy the tapestry of Baal. We must continue God's mission quest, and there is no hell for the righteous." Tiny said, "To Athlone!" We were headed to Athlone, Ireland. And we took off, flying into the horizon, into our sunset, to our destiny.